For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Florida seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on Foreign Affairs be discharged from further consideration of House Resolution 1169 and ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Resolution 1169, resolution reaffirming the commitment of the United States to promote free, fair, transparent, and credible elections in Bangladesh.
Is there objection to the consideration of the resolution? Without objection, the resolution is agreed to and the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The gentlewoman from Florida, Ms. Ross-Layton, and the gentleman from New York, Mr. Engel, will each control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and to include extraneous material on this measure.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Indo-Asia-Pacific region is of critical importance to the United States. It is home to some of our most urgent security challenges, our closest people-to-people links, and our strongest commercial and economic ties. The administration has recognized this priority in both the National Security Strategy document and the subsequent Free and Open Indo-Pacific Strategy. The Asia Reassurance Initiative Act of 2018, or ARIA, is a key component of this effort. It provides the administration with the direction and resources it needs for meaningful implementation of this free and open Indo-Pacific Asia strategy. ARIA cements U.S. leadership in the Indo-Pacific region by reassuring our allies and deterring our adversaries. It strengthens our security commitments with our allies and builds the capacity of our many partners in the region to combat terrorism and to stop aggressive actors. The bill reaffirms long-standing treaty alliances in Asia and calls for building new regional security partnerships. Unfortunately, there are also many challenges to human rights, non-proliferation, and democratic values in the Indo-Pacific. For that reason, this bill bolsters the critical work of the State Department and USAID to promote democracy, strong civil society, and the rule of law. Mr. Speaker, I am so pleased that we're taking up this bill, which earned unanimous bipartisan support in the Senate, demonstrates the strong continuing commitment of the United States to Asia. It reaffirms American values, strengthens American commitments to our many partners and allies in the region, and makes clear our enduring pursuit of peace and mutual prosperity. I urge my colleagues to join me in supporting this measure, and I reserve the balance of our time.
The gentlewoman reserves. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of this measure, and I yield myself as much time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
An extremely important and timely piece of legislation. I'm glad that we will be able to bring it forward today in a bipartisan manner. I cannot overstate the strategic importance of this bill before us today. In Washington, we know all too often focus on immediate crises and fail to focus on the broader but slower-moving challenges of our time. This legislation focuses on that bigger strategic picture. Over the next 100 years, the most significant issue facing American foreign policy will be the rise of the Indo-Pacific. The region will be the most significant driver of economic and demographic growth. Its environmental policies will have immense impact on the global health and climate change, and China's rise will have extraordinary geopolitical implications for the future of American leadership in the world. It's an important piece of legislation in directing Congress's attention to its vital foreign policy. The bill states that the United States will advances American influence, including through the promotion of human rights, supports the rule of law and international norms. This bill sends a clear and resounding message to the region. American commitment remains steadfast. I strongly support this measure, and I urge all members to do the same, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentlewoman from Florida is recognized.
We reserve our time, Mr. Speaker.
The gentlewoman reserves. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
It's now my pleasure to yield 4 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, a member of the Ways and Means Trade Subcommittee, Mr. Doggett.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Thank you so much. As we approve, it's also very important that we provide reassurance to Americans that our values are not being abandoned. In today's important House amendment, we commit not only to support continued engagement and friendship in the Asia-Pacific region, but to advance through our trade negotiations the values for which America has long been recognized as a beacon of hope to the world. That is a beacon that should leave no corner of this globe, including Asia, in the dark. And it must include human rights as a universal concept for all the people of the world. Our economic relations must be rooted in our shared values, our respect for human rights and adherence to the rule of law. Congress rejects support for just any trade agreement and indicates its support for those agreements with partners that actually respect, promote, and adhere to the rule of law. A surge of extrajudicial killings of citizens by police and gunmen. These shocking human rights abuses is not all. Child labor is persistent and serious. Safety is not prioritized, as indicated to workers that were killed in a garment factory fire. These anti-worker policies mean that it is a low-wage country that markets itself to American companies looking to further outsource American jobs. I believe that human rights is not a luxury. It is central to American values. It is central to the security of every American family. Amending this bill today helps us to achieve that objective and to send a strong message to the administration. I thank the gentleman and I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Gentlewoman from Florida is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, we continue to reserve.
Gentlewoman reserves.
The gentleman from Texas recognized.
Mr. Speaker, may I inquire as to how much time is left on both sides?
The gentleman from Texas has 13 and a half minutes, and the gentleman from Minnesota has 11.
Continue to reserve. Thank you.
The gentleman from Texas reserves. The gentleman from Minnesota is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'm now pleased to yield a minute and a half to the gentleman from Florida, a member of the committee, Mr. Soto.
The gentleman from Florida is recognized for a minute and a half.
I thank the gentleman from Minnesota and the chairman from Texas. It's been a long road, but it looks like we're bringing it in for a landing, and America is thankful for the Farm Bill that we could all be proud of. That includes Central Florida, and I thank everybody on the committee for their good work, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Well, I will close because there are no other speakers, so I want to again express my same strong support for the bill before us today. It is an important piece of legislation. It articulates a bipartisan policy towards the Indo-Pacific, authorizes funding to support American engagement in the region, highlights the importance of coordinating our development, diplomacy, and security interests to create effective foreign policy, and it sends a message to Asia and the world that the United States is investing in our allies and our strategic priorities. I hope all members will join me in supporting this bill before I yield the balance of my time. I know I said this the other day, but it looks like it's really coming true now. This may be the last time those of us in the Foreign Affairs Committee get to speak on the House floor for this Congress. And since my good friend and partner, Ileana Ross-Layton, and the gentlewoman from Florida is here, I want to just say for everyone to know what a pleasure it's been to be by her side for all these years and work closely with her on so many pieces of legislation, important pieces of legislation that I lost count years ago. But one of the things with Ileana Ross-Layton, and you can always count on her to work hard, to do the right thing, to be on the right side. And it's really just a pleasure to be her colleague and an even bigger pleasure to be her friend. So I hope you'll come back and visit us. If not, I'm going to Florida to visit you. I'll always cherish your wonderful tenure in the House of Representatives, and particularly on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Thank you, Ileana. So I want to yield back the balance of my time and say that we on the Foreign Affairs Committee, under the leadership of Chairman Royce, who also has been as bipartisan as you can get, I'm really proud of the work that we've done on the Foreign Affairs Committee this year, this Congress, and I look forward to doing even more work in the next Congress. So thank you. Thanks to Chairman Royce. Thanks to Congresswoman Ross-Leighton, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields. The gentlelady from Florida is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume. Mr. Speaker, thank you, sir. The United States must continue to reassure the nations of the Asia-Pacific region of the enduring commitment of the United States to being a peaceful presence in the region dedicated to universal values and mutual prosperity. It provides the United States with a long-term and whole-of-government strategy for the Indo-Pacific region that advances American national security interests, prosperity, and promotes the values of freedom and human rights. I urge my colleagues to join me in support of this measure. I thank the distinguished gentleman from New York, the ranking member of Foreign Affairs Committee, soon to be the chairman of our committee, for his friendship, for his kind words. I look forward to treating him to a nice café con leche in Miami. So come on down. The weather's fine. Rather than me going to New York, Mr. Engel. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back the balance of our time.
The gentlewoman yields. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass Senate as amended? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Florida seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on Foreign Affairs be discharged from further consideration of House Resolution 1169 and ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Resolution 1169, resolution reaffirming the commitment of the United States to promote free, fair, transparent, and credible elections in Bangladesh.
Is there objection to the consideration of the resolution? Without objection, the resolution is agreed to, and the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.